Take 3. All right, so this is the controversial video. This is video 1. I did like 13 takes yesterday, and I came up with a finished product. It's pretty long. I'll share it so you can kind of see what I was doing and what I was working with. But it just managed to be very superficial video because I avoid conflict. It's always like I'll bring a topic up and I'll say, there's more than one way to do it. This is the way I do it. Let's get you from point A to point B. But if you want to do the other ways, it's fine. Just know that these are the pros and cons to each option. And I tire myself out so quickly. I really need to stop being a people pleaser, right? And I was conditioned to do it. So this year I'm letting go of people pleasing, and I'm letting go of the fact that I can be controversial in a good way to move things forward, and I don't have to be like being unethical or untrue to myself, right? You can cause controversy because people naturally sometimes don't like you or don't like your concepts or don't like the way you do certain things, right? And that's okay because they're not your people. But if they want to comment or chip in, or maybe when you make a belief, like flip it and put it on its head, maybe you get through to them because they just needed something to open up, and then they're on board. But yeah, so I need to be like, listen, this is my way I do it. If you think you're capable to follow those steps in that order, do it. If you're not, well, maybe I'm not the coach for you, right? And that's okay. We're not excluding anyone. We're just trying to find our people that align with our values, that align with our work ethics, and that we know they have a goal to get from point A to point B. They have a problem starting off in point A. They don't know how to get to B. And me and you and I, we've done it. We've stepped on it. We've done the work. We fell through the cracks into the pitfalls. And then we've maneuvered our way to point B, to the solution. We know how to get there. So we're going to walk our people that want it the same amount that we want it, and that are willing to work for it, and that like our energy, that like our humor, that like our way of teaching, and we're going to walk them through. So there's nothing wrong with being controversial. But, it is a chip that I have to work through and chip at and remind myself every time that I make a piece of content, is this valuable? Is it rubbing the wrong way? Because it has to rub the wrong way. Even if your topic isn't controversial, it has to rub the wrong way. So it's controversial in itself. It has to rub the wrong way because it has to hurt. It has to put a little bit of salt in that pain point. So people are like, oh wow, I do have a cut. I do have to go to the doctor, and I should probably listen to Eli. I should flush it out with some liquids. Not because I'm a doctor, but I'm saying in the example of like, we're going to walk the person from getting the salt off the wound and knowing that they can clean it, and they have places to go to get it fixed or sewed, or they can, just treat it topically and get over and get to that next step, right? But we have to touch that pain point to make them impulse forward, because when we're in our comfort zone, not a lot of stuff happens, right? So just the pain point is controversial. Just the pain point. So imagine touching into that's like a major disconnecting in my content because of being afraid to be controversial. So even just the pain point sometimes has been difficult in the hooks for me to say, because I'm a person that responds to positive reinforcement. And I'm a person that's always trying to find a way to get out of what I'm in ahead of time. And I know that there's people like that, but sometimes people get caught up in day-to-day life, and I have too. So I understand that, and sometimes you need a wake-up call on your phone and be like, are you worried that you're not going to make it to your kid's graduation because you haven't been making the healthiest decisions? And, so that kind of content that stops people and makes them think and reflect, it's hitting a pain point of like, wow, I might not be able to see my kids graduate. I might not even see my grandkids, right? So that's an example of some controversial things that we deal with as coaches with our content that I've been too afraid to really hone in and touch and harness the power of. Another thing that's really controversial is that ties into the reason the reason you might or I might not want to do this sometimes, and we have to get over that because it's ourselves holding ourselves back. Is when it comes to like people pleasing, and so I was conditioned to people please. I'm a trans man, and I was brought up in a Latin American household and conditioned to and educated as a female, and that can go across, multicultural. There's always these expectations of women to be more submissive, to be more people pleasing, to smile all the time, to always be in like a happy disposition. It doesn't sound typical for a Latin American household because the women are very strong. But yeah, there's a lot of people pleasing and a lot of also not even having to do with genders, but there's a part of when you live in a household, a Latin American household, where you have to give back to family members and parents. And so there's a lot of that needing to give into the household. And so at your sacrifice, right? So anytime somebody makes a decision for themselves, like I've had siblings where they're like, no, I can't help out. I need to do this and move on. And it was painful for the people in need. Obviously, my family never really said that they were selfish. They were just like, oh, that person's just more money focused, right? But ultimately, culturally, and people pleasers are taught that if you need water and you ask me for water and I have water, I give you the water. I want to keep you happy and I want to keep you out of the situation that you're in. And this has another level to that, which we're going to go into that right now in the second part. But if I don't have water for me for the rest of the week to drink, then I just set myself back like 20 feet when if I could have had that water for myself and said like, listen, I'll give you less water, or I can't give you water now. Come back next week after I've accumulated some more or I've done something else. And the water can be time. The water can be the thing that you specialize with work. For example, if you cut hair and then on your weekend, everybody comes over, all your family members and friends come over and they expect you to cut their hair, whether it's not paying full price or just taking up your weekend. When is there time for you to re-energize and be yourself again, right? So it can be what you do for your job. It can be money. It can be time. So there's a lot of ways that we give from our cups without filling ours first. And that's a major mistake, because if you had filled it up and you had invested in yourself and you had gotten to a better situation, you could help those people even more, right? So that's one thing. You could help the community around you in a different way. But also, by not putting that limit on people, you're teaching them to be the same way. Or the people around you, your children, your nieces and nephews, your family members are like, oh wow, that person is really giving to the point that they're sacrificing. So it kind of like continues that cycle of being a martyr. And then there's the other people that don't respect you, right? They're like, look at this dummy. This person is not even taking care of themselves. Why would I even trust them with anything if they're willing to sacrifice their time, their energy, their health, their well-being to fulfill somebody else? I don't trust that person. I don't like them. That's the irony of being a people pleaser, to be liked, right? That's just the nature of the beast. Whether you're a good person, whether you're not a good person, just half of the population is not really gonna like you or stomach you or process you. So that's just part of it, and that's something that people pleasers need to know. And then on top of it, we're looked at like jokes, right? And I was gonna say they're looked at, because I don't accept that label anymore. I'm not a people pleaser anymore. I've become more selfish, and I know that the more I invest in myself, and selfish in a good way, and selfish in a self-preservance way, like the mask in the airplane falls, I'm going to put it on myself first, and then I'm going to help everybody else. So going to the second part about, so it's either martyr, you're not being respected, and also that person maybe had a lesson they needed to go through, right? They needed you to say no so they could figure something out and have a creative solution, or maybe not work with somebody else. So when you're thinking you're helping somebody, sometimes you're limiting them from being their full potential and their full selves, right? So yeah, so people pleasing and tied in with not wanting problems or controversy and just wanting to maintain peace. But the reality is that it's like peace in air quotes, because nobody has full peace. Something's always going to come up, and it's just how we deal with it, how we process it, right? So it's kind of like, do you want to have poor people problems, or do you want to have rich people problems? Because problems in life always happen. And so that's one of the biggest things. And that's one of the things that always told me growing up, we would always have a car breaking down. And so it was always on the side of the road. So I have a lot of like, we could be on the side of the road at 8 p.m. The good thing is that back in the day, people would pull over and give you a ride. And then you could come the next day with somebody else and figure out what you needed to do with your vehicle, or somebody would stop by and help you fix it. But I just think back to those times of really high poverty growing up and thinking it's not easier. You know what I mean? So people are like, well, if I make money, I'm more money, more problems. No, more money, just higher level problems. It's always better to run into, I'm growing so much, I'm growing fast, I have to outsource this. Dang it. That's like a good problem to have. Or like, I have to figure out a way where I can pay myself, and then I can pay the correct amount of taxes, and then I can do the rest through my corporation, and then your creative solutions, right? Then that's a problem to have. Or like, all of a sudden I have 20 more people in my community, and it turns out that they have the same problem, but there's an added issue that they might have. So I have to go and create another course. Good problems to have, right? Versus like, yeah, my car broke down, so I can't go to work. And I just lost my job. So now I have to figure out a way to make money, or I have to figure out a way to get a job that's a little bit closer. That's if you live in a city. If you live in a rural area like how I grew up, not having a car could lead to like a really dry, like a long dry season of figuring stuff out, of like having to carpool with somebody and then having to get a job with that person so you could drive along with them or figure a way. So problems happen at whatever level, so choose your problems. So, and that brings back to the fact that controversy and stress related to the peace that we have, we're always going to have factors that stress us that come in, but it's always better to pick them strategically. So there's stresses that are good stresses, good problems, that once you fix them are going to bless you a lot more. So yeah, so I'm doing that, and I'm gonna work on being okay with the controversy and the pain points in my content. I think that that's really gonna make a big shift, and I'm working on just being okay with controversy in general, right? All right, so this is it for this one.